Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin from Florals.com and today I'm back with the 2020 Creative Reset series. If you guys have not checked it out before, I highly recommend you check out the playlist down below so you can see the announcement video and then sort of see the process of what this whole series will be. The series does run through February of 2020, so buckle up because we have a lot to go over in these few months to really prep us for a great 2020 and finishing our goals. So in the last episode, we did a lot of writing, what I call brain dumping, writing all of our things down. You guys really enjoyed the idea. Some of you have heard of it before and love lists like I do, and some of you hadn't heard it before, so I'm glad that some of you are doing new processes to really reevaluate your creative process for the new year. So we went over my 2019 goals previously in this series. We also went through our brain dump process. Now, while I'm talking later, we're going to start going through these fun goodies that are just sitting on my desk, and I'm going to start organizing them by color so I can file them away into my die cut system because this is getting overfilled and I want to keep select things in there so it's easier to pick things out rather than it being bulky and me not wanting to go through it. So we're going to look at some pretty stuff today, but we're also going to talk hard facts. So during the brain dump, we did a lot of fun things. If you guys have not watched that, again, I'll have it linked down below. It's great to set ourselves up with a big picture. This was the big picture for us. We went over all of these things. We prioritized. We did a lot. So make sure you have your notes from the last lesson because you'll want them for this lesson. And again, if you haven't watched it, I recommend going back. I also recommend that you watch my goal video from last year, which I'll have linked down below, because I'm not going over that stuff again. Although I could, it's not what I want to do in this series. It takes away kind of from what the series is because we're kind of building on all of the aspects we've already learned. So go watch that. I'll have it linked down below. And it's about setting goals, types of goals you can set, and we'll be touching on that today. So all the links will be in the description down below, and now we can dive right in to what we're going to be talking about today. So there are 3 types of goals, which I talk about in the video much more in depth, but there's quantity-oriented, project-oriented, and time-oriented generally. There's also, some random goals that might not fit into one of these categories specifically, but based off your previous experiences of making goals and your reflections that you've put down in the brain dump video, which type of goal did you achieve most? Were you drawn to most? Were you motivated by most? Because those are the kind of goals you want to go for. Now, sometimes it's hard to write a goal in all 3 ways, but it's possible. So you could have, for example, we'll start with quantity-oriented. You could journal on 5 layouts every week. Quantity-oriented. Project-oriented would be journal my Disney album. Put all the journaling in it. That would be a project-oriented goal. And time-oriented goal would be journal every week. So see, you can really make your goals flexible so they work in a style that you prefer. So we're going to be talking about goal setting today and my goals and how I ended up coming to them. And hopefully when I walk through my process of thinking about them and then how I got to them, some of them, I guess, I'm not sharing all of them with you guys, but how I got to them will really help you guys evaluate how you should get to your goals, the ones that will motivate you the most and the ones that will actually produce results for you throughout the year. So now that we have our brain dump list in front of us, some things might start to pop out at us. So we went over our current projects, our finished projects, projects you want to start, and then fears and concerns and hopes and dreams. Now, we could honestly get a goal from a lot of these different sections, and you'll find that different parts motivate you depending on who you are. So new projects might motivate you more so than started projects. The ones that have been sitting around, you never know. But I think it's important to also finish before you start more. But again, it depends on your personality. I understand that some people don't want to go back to projects that they've started because their style has changed. The circumstances have changed of these stories. You could have started an album on a loved one and then they've since passed away. So now it's hard to go back to those kind of things. And I completely understand that. And that's okay if we set those aside and don't focus on them right away. Just write a few goals. They don't have to be big goals. They could be small goals. I think mine are quite on the smaller scale versus like the larger scale like I did last year. And again, I'll pull those up so you guys can see them. Notebooks are hard. So my 2019 goals were quantity-oriented, project-oriented, and time-oriented. If you guys don't know which type of goal you prefer, I would recommend making one of each like I did last year. And that helped me evaluate which one I thought was most important. This is the one that stuck with me the most, I'm going to say. It was in my mind that I knew I wanted to finish an album last year, and I did. I did finish one of these albums, but I also made it flexible for myself. But I also found myself avoiding some of the other topics for a certain reason, probably, but I'm not sure what that was still and why I wasn't drawn to it. I also like quantity-based goals because I do a lot of videos, so by having a quantity here, it helps me try to gauge how many videos I want to put out in the year, if they're project-based videos. But I've actually transformed my channel quite a bit since the beginning of 2019, where I'm doing a lot more of these types of videos, where we're not chatting about different layouts. We're chatting about creative processes, and we're not showing the pretty stuff all the time, which we will get to later. But if you have your brain dump stuff with you, start looking at it. I'm going to start sorting so you guys can actually start seeing this stuff. But start sorting it into a priority list. So for example, I have a couple finished projects, started projects here that I need to reevaluate to see where I'm at with them. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes our projects get away from us, we forget about them, and it's honestly really, really important to make sure you have a running list of projects that you have started and projects you want to start. I have my story list, which I told you guys, I have a list where I keep stories that I want to tell. If you guys don't have one of those, I highly recommend it, especially if you have a child and they say cute things. It's a great place to write all of those down. Then you can also write down things that you want to do, so projects-wise. So you could do a mini album about X, Y, or Z, or you could do, there's just endless possibilities, and I want you guys to know that you don't have to do it the way I do it. There's tons of other ways to do it out there, so just remember that. It's your destiny, it's your scrapbook. Maybe talking with your family about what they want in the future. Does your daughter care about having a whole baby album, or she just wants select pieces? So maybe you should make an album for yourself and an album for her to keep that's not as in-depth, or maybe she picks and chooses. You know, those kind of things are important to have conversations about, because people can be disappointed sometimes when we try to give homemade gifts. I know I've been reluctant to give some gifts like that because I knew the person wouldn't necessarily appreciate it as much as I did because I spent X amount of time on it, for example. So keep that in mind. Maybe the project really isn't worth your time, even though it sounds like a fun project. But it just depends on what you like out of the project. So it could be that you like the process. It could be that you liked the outcome. If you like looking through finished albums, then make albums for yourself. Don't think about it for other people. But if you want to make stuff that lasts for generations, you should talk with your family or your loved ones or your friends about what that means, because that can be different for a lot of different people. So as we start looking through our current projects list, is there a project that jumps out at you that you want to finish? Like, there's no reason it shouldn't be done. You're excited about it still. You just don't know why you haven't had time to do it. Maybe you've been devoted to doing other things, because that happens sometimes. And that's perfectly fine. So just reevaluate these projects. Which ones are most important? Which ones are least important? Is there a time factor in some of them? Because I know sometimes we have time constraints put on us for certain things. Like if there's a graduation upcoming and you need something for the party to have on the wall. I'm making stuff up now, but I know there are time-oriented things where scrapbooking is very time sensitive. So if that's something you need to keep in mind, keep that in mind. You also have to be more wary of your time than anything, I think, because we often overextend ourselves, especially when it comes to creating projects. If someone were to ask you to create a project today, would you say yes? Like, if someone asked you to make an album because they loved your work, would you say yes because you wanted to do it? Yes because you felt like you had to do it? You know, kind of put yourself in these scenarios, because you'll never know when they do come up. But when they do come up, they'll come up. That's so cute. But just make sure that if you're doing a project-oriented goal, that it's something you're excited about, and that it's something that you really think you can get done. Some projects are way too big to get done in a year, especially if you don't know what your time will be during the year. Because sometimes we think we're going to be super Like, we're going to be in the craft room every week doing something. And simply that just doesn't happen. Sometimes it just doesn't happen, guys. And that's okay. Because that's life and that's how life works. So don't fret over that kind of thing. Just pick a goal, granted how much time you have right now, because we can always change our goals. And I think I will do a goal update video this year where we reevaluate our goals later on in the year and really see, you know, did we hit the halfway point? Did we not hit the halfway point? Why didn't we? What should we redo to reevaluate? Those kind of things should be happening. Of course, things could just go super smooth too. You never know. So, evaluate your time currently. Evaluate the projects you have currently. And don't forget to add in the projects that you want to do. Because I know we often forget about the new stuff. We focus on the old stuff, we get bored with the old stuff, and then we, you know, start swimming because we don't know what to work on. We feel guilty for not working on the old stuff, but we really want to work on the new stuff. It is kind of a vicious cycle, to be honest. I've now just made this all neutrals and metallics up here. But what I think we also need to do is make sure that we're doing goals for ourselves. So if you need to schedule time into your schedule for crafting, make sure that's a goal, because you will keep substituting it for something else. You will keep, you know, shoving it aside unless you make it a priority. And I know a lot of us have trouble making it a priority because it's honestly a hobby. Our family takes place first. All these other things take place first. And I understand that. Because a lot of people aren't in my situation. A lot of people have kids, have, you know, all the stuff going on. Which makes sense. That's how most people are. They got stuff going on. So make sure you take into account your stuff, because I don't know all of your stuff. And I might not be touching it on it here. So make sure you're taking into account your stuff and everything that's going on with your stuff. Because it's important that you really, really evaluate this honestly and not just being hopeful. Because we want realistic goals that really, really propel us. So if you're unsure of time, if you're unsure of, you know, how much time you'll be able to dedicate to a goal, same thing. Don't make a time-based goal. Don't do it. It'll just stress you out. I did that. My life changed completely. I moved. All this other stuff happened. Time-based goals are really hard unless you have like a set routine. Perhaps you're retired and you'll have time to do things. That's fine. You could probably do a time-based goal. But a lot of us have really busy lives with things that are forever changing. And it's honestly really hard to keep up sometimes. So think of it in a different way. Maybe not time-based, maybe project-based would work a little bit better for you. Just keep your mind open to rewriting your goals into a different light, because I think that'll open more doors for you and might end up making you happier in the long run. Because if we paint ourselves into a corner, we're going to be more upset that we did that than just, you know, trying to work through it. We'll just be frustrated. We'll just be sad. And we don't want to be sad. We want to be happy and working on crafty projects that make us happy. So I would suggest rating your current projects for importance, and then also how much it excites you. That will help you really evaluate where your priorities lie at the moment. And again, you can revisit this later on in the year. So it's a great way to start off looking at what you currently have and then slowly transitioning into what you want. So I also made a list of projects I want to start, which is not an exhaustive list here. I have a much longer list, I think, on my phone. But the important part is that I know that I have tons of projects in the future that I want to make. So I need to evaluate which ones are important in a time sense, important in an excites me sense, and important in need to get done sense. I know a lot of people don't have things that need to be done, but for example, I gave the graduation example. If you want a graduation album done, you'll need to start that now for next year, only because we try to put in a lot of time and effort into these things. And, you know, we're sometimes perfectionists, which can be great, can also be a little bit annoying because we want to get projects done, but we're also not happy with our work. You guys know the drill, but just make sure you're evaluating things honestly. I think that's one of the most important parts, because you'll find yourself in a hole if you do it otherwise. And again, don't be afraid to change your goals throughout the year. I think a lot of us are afraid to do that, but we shouldn't be, because there are goals. We can do what we want. So if you have your goals ready, which it's okay if you don't, I'd recommend taking a deep breath, start evaluating what you got. Start where you are, then look at where you want to go. And, you know, how can you get there? It's just simple steps, nothing too crazy. You'll eventually make it. It might take longer than a year. Some of these goals don't have to be year-long goals. Generally they are, because that's just how we work as humans. We work on a yearly basis for some reason. I'm not sure why. But just take a look at where you are. Deep breaths the whole time. It can be honestly really overwhelming, and I don't blame you guys if you feel that way. I'm honestly overwhelmed that 2020 is so close and I don't have, you know, X, Y, and Z done. Or I don't even know, you know, where I'm going in January, or, you know, there's lots of moving parts to life. And same thing goes for scrapbooking. There's the photos, the photo printing. There's the actual going to the events before the photos even happen. There's the printing of the photos, there's the organizing of the photos, there's the scrapbooking of the photos, there's the journaling of the photos, there's putting them back in the album, but you didn't plan the album at the beginning, so then you wanted to change to a traveler's notebook. You can see how it adds up. It adds up really quick, and people get overwhelmed because it's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming hobby, especially for new people nowadays, because there's just so much that comes with it. Like if you search scrapbooking, I'm pretty sure there's millions and billions of listings, because there's that much going on. And there's so many different ways to do it, and there's no rules, but people say there's rules, you know what I mean. But when you're making your goals, just keep in mind your personal time, your desires and your wishes, your hopes and your dreams like we wrote down, and your fears. If you're fearful that you have too many projects going on, don't start more projects. You know, don't feed into your fears. Don't feed into your hopes and dreams and make wild, crazy goals that you know you won't be able to achieve and you'll just be disappointed with. Take it realistically, and I think you guys will be really happy with the rest of the series. I'm not just going to leave you guys hanging high and dry after we go over our goals here. And I would love if you shared your goals down below, or just one goal, because I think it'd be helpful for everyone to see where everyone stands, because everyone's life's different. And my goals shouldn't be your goals. We shouldn't have the same goals because we don't have the same life. We shouldn't have the same, you shouldn't even have close to the same goals, although I understand that some are pretty realistic for everyone to have. Like everyone could have a quantity goal for a number of projects they want to finish, but that number should vary by person. And luckily, I'm going to share my goals with you guys today. And luckily, we're almost done with this little bucket. That's so super exciting. There's some really cute stuff in here. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me sort them by color. Is that pink? I'll go pink. But my goals are simple, a lot simpler than last year's, a lot smaller than last year's. I would love to crush these goals before, you know, the halfway point of the year. And honestly, I think I could. I just know that I get bored with things easily, so I like to switch things around. I'm going to have to clean that out. So, without further ado, here's my crafty goals for next year, which you guys kind of already saw. My number one goal is to finish my Disney 2016 album, which is a project-oriented goal. This is probably a fifth of the way done. I'm not sure. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, so I'd like to get that one finished because I have other Disney albums to do. So I'd love to get that one finished, you know, learn from my mistakes of that album, why it took so long, you know, etc., and really just plow through that through different series and different, you know, there's no reason I shouldn't be working on it. I think it's just one of those albums that overwhelms me a bit because it's a big trip. There's a lot of photos, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. Then my next two, or I guess my next one, is a time-oriented goal. So journal on my layouts every month. As you guys know, I usually do a kit per month, except for this month, where I work with a kit, make a bunch of layouts with it, share the layouts at the end of the month. Since I'm working in a monthly format for my kits, and you know I have that deadline of the end of the month to get my How to Kill a Kit with Style Kill a Kit video done, that's when I'm going to focus on doing journaling on my layouts every month, because from here on out, I'm not putting my I'm not putting my layouts away. I'm not putting them in a pile. I'm putting a pile in the month, but after that pile is created each month, I'm going to journal on them. There's no reason I can't. I'm going to have to, you know, really focus in on this kind of goal, but I like that it'll start becoming part of my process, and it's sort of creating a habit, because I don't have the habit of journaling yet. I know a lot of us don't. We don't know when to journal. We don't know how we should journal, you know, if we should write it out, if we should type it out. You know, there's lots of different ways, typewriter even. So I think that I'll start building this into my process, and then I'll be happier with the outcome of this kind of goal because it'll be creating a habit. And ideally, I'll just start getting into the habit of journaling on a layout as soon as it's complete. Because as you guys know, I talk about the story during the process video, or at least in the voiceover of the video, which means recently I've talked about the layout and I reminisce about it. But I don't often journal about them until up to a year later, at the very most, probably. No, probably more than a year later. Maybe wicked later. But that's okay. That's okay. So that's one of my goals I'm going to focus on. It's a small goal, but it is a constant goal. So I should be journaling a ton more this year than I did ever last year, or 2019 that is. And I'll be journaling so much more in 2020. And once I'm done with this album, it'll be all journaled in because of this. See how we're like linking these together? I did that on purpose. Then the last one, which I don't think really fits into any of these categories. I mean, I guess it could be quantity oriented. Use more than I buy. This is just one of my mantras I generally have. I don't think I buy a ton. I know I buy, but I don't think I buy a ton. I think the problem with my realization of this is that I buy in small quantities a lot more often than people buy in big quantities. Do you know what I mean? So if I'm buying several times at small quantities, does that equal up to one time of the larger quantity that you see in haul videos or things like that? So I don't usually commit to a spending freeze because I don't think that's the problem. It's not the spending problem. I buy things on great deals. It's not a money issue. It's just that there's an overwhelm issue. And this happens with me in clothing as well. Essentially, I buy things. My closet gets too full. I have to get rid of things. And then my closet seems empty because I got rid of so many things. Do you know what I mean? So it's an endless cycle and I want to stop that. I just want to use up things. And I've been really good about that. I showcase my empties in all of my favorites videos. And I think you guys like that as well because it motivates you guys to finish up things, finishing sticker sheets, finishing washi tapes, crazy things like that you think never really happen, actually happen. The process video the other day, I only know that there's like 8 inches left of this washi tape. So I'm really excited to finish that off so I can have it in my empties this month. But I think using more than I buy is a great goal. It's a vague goal, which is very hard to, keep track of. But I think I'll just start keeping track of all of my purchases in 2020. Because if I have a list of them and I start seeing I've already made 10 purchases in February or by February, I'll start realizing that it's adding up in that way in the smaller section of categories. Because I go to Michael's for the tape refills. And then you always check out the clearance section when you're at Michael's because a deal is a great deal and I don't often leave them on the table. I often buy gifts for my friends at, those clearance sales and, sending them off has been a great fun thing for me to do. But is it something I need to be doing? No. So that's why I'm working on them and working on this motivation for next year to not want to buy, but want to create more. And I think this was a record year for layout creation. I don't think I'll hit 200 by any means. I think I'm up to 160 now from the last time I counted them. But these are what I consider my main goals. Again, these two are more of habit goals. So eventually I'll have this habit of wanting to use more than just going out and buying or going online and buying. So I'm really, really excited about that. And if you guys have not checked out my YouTube community tab, you can go to my channel page and at the top there's a tab that says community. If you click on that, I have polls over there about asking what you want to see next year. And I'd love your input over there as well as in the comments on this video. So now that we've finished sorting all of our beautiful things and now that we've got our goals written, and again, take your time writing your goals. You could write them on January 31st. You could write them February 31st. That's not a real date. February 29th, however, is a real date next year. So you could write them that day. It doesn't matter when you write your goals. You don't even need an end date. I do yearly goals because I find that they last longer. If I did shorter goals, I don't think I'd be happy. I think it'd feel like work if my goals were too goal-ish. So I'm happy with what I have written down. Again, these are some of my goals, not all of them, but we sorted our die cuts. I'm going to go put these away after this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about my goals and how I got there. Again, we can go back and I'll share. So 2019, my goals were quantity, project, time. This year we have project. This I'd consider time, and this one I consider quantity, despite them not having an actual number. This one's every month, so it is somewhat time-oriented. So we still have 3 types of goals, which again, I told you guys, this one motivated me the most and has me the most excited. I'll say this one seems like a chore and this one seems like a challenge. So maybe you should start looking at them that way as well. Which one excites you? Which one seems like a chore? Or which one seems like, you know, you're forcing yourself to do something, which I don't mind journaling. It's just that sometimes journaling on layout seems really, really scary because they're big stories or you don't know what to say. And we might do a whole video on that, but, and then this one seems like a challenge. You should be challenging yourself in your goals. This album sat too long. We're finishing it this year. I am determined about it, and you guys will be seeing more Disney layouts probably. Here, these ones are kind of wrote just to have. Again, this one was probably the one that motivated me the most. This one was inspirational, and you know, it was a fun idea, but it was never going to happen. And this one I knew I was going to hit. I didn't know when. I didn't know if this was too high or too low. Again, I made it projects because I know if I made cards, I would definitely hit it. So I made about 100 and I'm at 100, let's see, 160. I probably hit 200 projects total this year easily because I had the chipboard mini album, and then, you know, I had smaller projects that I would count as, you know, big things that counted. So take a look at all your buckets. Lack of motivation is a concern of mine. I have lack of motivation all the time, but I am determined to do this Disney 2016 album, which I think, and this will be in the next video a little bit more, will result in me getting a couch scrapbooking kit. So if I don't feel like coming in here and scrapbooking, because sometimes I want to be with my boyfriend or with our cats, or, you know, if someone's over, I want to be in the living room. I don't want to be in here scrapbooking. And sometimes we do things where we can multitask, like I could scrapbook on the floor and we could be watching a movie. So we'll go into how we're going to set ourselves up for these goals and how we're going to achieve them. So make sure you start writing your goals now, and then when you come back to 2020 Creative Reset next time, you guys will be talking about how we can really set ourselves up for success. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed seeing my list book and also my beautiful die cuts that I've now sorted. So I'm gonna have to clean out this container because it's full of cat hair, but this will be filled throughout my process of little bits that are left over. I actually have some bits on my desk I might put in here just to spice it up this time, because these have been in there for a while, and they'll just go into my die cut binder, and I'll just start putting in new ones because I need to see new things in the new year, because it's time to reset our creative spaces, our minds, and just have a whole creative reset for 2020. But I hope you guys have the best and best of holidays. Holiday wishes to everyone who celebrates any holiday. You guys are all great, and I really appreciate you guys spending time with me right before the holidays or during the holidays, and I hope you guys did enjoy. I will see you guys again after the holidays with another 2020 Creative Reset video, and I can't wait to spend more time with you guys in the new year. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to comment down below with suggestions, with your goals, with your ideas, with your tips. There's a lot of us who read the comments because they get a lot of inspiration from them. So please share down below. You guys are inspiring a ton of other people when you do. And again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys again very, very soon. Bye, guys.